Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us here at the Bramble Patch today. My name is Wendy, and we've got Alicia on technicals. Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on using the pineapple ruler. Okay, this looks very complicated. If you see the block, it's not complicated at all. It's really fun to use. If you would like to join the Bramble Patch emails or subscribe, when we do a tutorial that has a pattern with it, we will be able to access a free download. This week we won't be using doing a pattern, as all the instructions are enclosed in the ruler itself, and they're very easy to follow. So let's get on and look at how we do a pineapple block. So first of all, the first thing and the only thing that we need to cut accurately is a 2.5 inch square for the centre. The rest of the strips that go around need to be cut a minimum of 1 3/4 inches wide. If they're wider, that's fine, and only one edge of the fabric needs to be cut straight because we're going to trim it as we go along. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to actually put this fabric all the way around the square. It doesn't matter whether you go clockwise or anti-clockwise, or whichever way you want to. It makes no difference using this particular ruler. So let's get started. The fabric that I'm using today is the new range of the Tilda fabric, and it's beautiful. Lovely colour tones, and it's really lovely to work with. Now, you don't really have to be even very accurate how you cut this one, because we're trimming as we go along. Okay. Now, you'll probably know that quite often you will hear tutors say you need to set the seam. What that actually means is when you actually press your fabric or the seam that you have just sewn, what that does, it actually warms the fabric and the thread and relaxes it. And then it just means that that thread beds itself down quite nicely and doesn't give you such a bulky seam. So that's what setting the seam means. Okay, so we'll carry on and go around and do the rest. I tend to go from side, top, bottom. It's just the routine I've got into, but it really doesn't make any difference with this particular ruler. You can do lots and lots of different layouts with this. You can use your fabrics in an organised pattern, or you can do it really scrappy. It makes no difference. They look beautiful. And when I press this, I'm pressing the seams away from the centre square. All the way through the block, the seams go away from the centre square. Now, you don't need to actually put the fabric all the way to the end, because you are going to trim it away. And I'll show you that as we go through. And the last one to go on this one. Fabric the right way around. Here we go. Now, as you can see, that looks pretty appalling. And I've overemphasized it just so you can see how it actually looks. Now what we need to do now, the center square, okay, is finished with, and these are now called rounds. But first of all, what we're going to do, we're going to use just one square on the actual ruler, only once. And I've just brought this over so that you can see it. There is one square which is white here. Okay, and this one is for round 1. On every single part of the ruler, it tells you which part to use. So the white square is round 1, which is the first one we're going to use. Okay, so all you need to do is place the white square on your center square, like so. And where the corner is, it will automatically add the 1/4 inch seam allowance on for you, like so. And we just turn it around so that we make 4 cuts as we go along. This just tidies it all up. I have working samples of this at the Sew Studio, so when customers come in and are interested in rulers, they can actually see the stages that I've already got made up. Okay, so that's the first one. So what we're going to do now, we're going to add another round of fabric, and I'm going to change this time and use this fabric. These are all Tilda, okay? So I'm just going to do exactly the same. I'm going to go all the way around with this one. If any of you have done traditional foundation piecing, you'll know how some people find it quite challenging. This is just so easy, and you actually do get pretty much the same effect. It's around here. I've run a couple of classes doing this last year and earlier in the year, and saw some amazing quilts, and ladies have actually carried on and made more table runners and all sorts. Really, really nice. Now we've got to this stage, we don't need to sew fabric from this end to this end all the way along here, because we're going to cut some of it off. I'm going to put some on just so you see how much you cut away, but it's once you've done a couple of blocks, you will be able to see whereabouts you need to lay it, okay? When I do these, I tend to do several all at the same time, because it's just much easier to, if you want all your fabrics to be organised, you can just whiz through them, knowing that everything's where it should be, in the right colour placement, no problem. And it's already starting to appear. Just put this last strip on. Like I say, the ruler actually, once you look at it, is pretty much self-explanatory. Just fun to use. There we go. Okay, set the seam, roll it back and give it a little press. Okay, now I'm hoping you can see how accurate this looks without taking any real care. Just take a look at these points. They just come out lovely. Okay, so we forget the centre square now and we start to count the rounds. So this was round 1. This is round 2. Okay, so I'm going to show you which part of the ruler to use for the even rounds. Okay, so if I just lay this on here, I'm hoping that you can actually see the printing on the ruler. So the black squares here are all the even rounds. So this one with the dotted line is round 2, which is the first round we're going to use because we're on the second round going around the centre square. Okay, very, very simple. So all you need to do is lay round 2, which is the dotted line, on your centre square, like so, and trim, trim. Turn it around and do exactly the same again. And this is adding your seam allowance on for you as you go along. Like so. We are now ready to add round 3 on. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the lighter fabric again and go all the way around. I found this quite fascinating when I did it because foundation piecing, traditional foundation piecing, is my favourite technique of all times. I absolutely adore it. I do it in a couple of different ways. I do traditional foundation piecing, but I also do foundation piecing using freezer paper, which is another lovely technique. But to be honest, you get just the same look by using these rulers, and they are very, very easy. So I'm just going to add the opposite side on. Because the width of the block is already widening, I can actually do the opposite sides without actually having to press them in between. So once again, set the seam, roll it back, and now we can actually add on the other 2 sides. Almost round on round 3. And once I've done this, you will see how remarkably it actually builds up very, very quickly. So now if I'm at home, I don't use as much fabric as this. I'm just doing it now so that you can actually see where we go with all of this. Okay. Okay. Once again, you can see here that we've got lovely points coming on. So we are now on round 1, 2, 3. Okay. So what we want to do now is actually use a different part of the ruler. Okay. 3 is an odd number. So what we need to do here is a white line all the way across the ruler. Okay. And on that white line, it will tell you that here you use this for row 3, 5, and 7. Okay. So all you need to do is you place the white line on this line here. And the dotted lines that you can see here will actually go down the side of the square. It's just to help you align it up nicely, okay? You've also got a centre line that you can actually put right the way through the points on there and there. So I've got the white line on the sewn line, I've got the dotted line here and here, and the central line is coming straight the way through this point and this point, okay? Now when you cut it, you will think you're doing it incorrectly because you are going to actually rotary cut the point off. That is correct. You should be cutting this point off, okay? So once you've done that, you will then just rotate your block around and you'll do it a further 3 times, making sure you're aligning it as you go along. And yes, we're cutting the point off. Okay. And there we go. So like so. Okay. So you just carry on now doing exactly the same and go all the way through, okay, until you get to round 8. Okay, so I'll just set that to one side for the moment. And we are going to move on to this. Okay. I'm hoping you can see this. So we have the centre square. We have round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so on round 8, we're going to cut it twice. Okay, so using the ruler, you are going to use your centre square, the last one on your even ones, because it says on there round 8, and you're going to place that centre square on round 8, like so. Now, when you lay that on there, all of the other black dotted lines will actually sit on your sew lines that you've done for each round, okay? And all we're going to do now is actually trim this around, like so. Turn it around. And do the same once again. Black square on the centre, line everything up nicely, and trim, trim. Right. Now, the additional cut that we need on this one is we're going to have to add a corner to it. But this is too wide because this has not been cut yet. So what we actually need to do is use that white line on that last sew line that you put on and trim, like so. So all we're doing is making the width of that last 8th one the same width as all the rest, like so. And the final one, here we go. Now to square all this up, what we need to do is add the corners. Now the corner is cut at 2.5 inches by 4 inches, okay? And all we're going to do is sew 1 on every edge, okay? So I'll very quickly do that, and then you can see the final trim that we do. Just remember, if you are using a fabric that has a directional design on it, make sure you've not got things standing on the heads or flying sideways. Oh. Oh. Is it more haste, less speed? It's all coming together. Now again, these don't have to be accurate at all, as long as they're big enough, and as long as you've got one straight edge that you're actually going to sew to the previous cut line. That's all you need. And the final one, here we go. So all I'm going to do now is just set the seam, roll it back, press. And I must admit, the first time I did this bit, I thought, however is this going to work? But hey presto, it does. There we go. So that is what the block looks like now. So we're going to do exactly the same again that we've just done, and all we're going to do now is tidy those last corners up. So place your center square 8 on your center square here. All of these lines will line up with the seams you've already stitched, and we're just going to go through there and turn it around, and the final cut to complete the block and there you can see your beautiful pineapple block. Okay, and even if we turn this over, look how neat the back looks. Can you see that? It just comes out automatically like that every single time without fail. So I'll just show you another couple of blocks that I've done. Oops. Okay. So here we go. And got a couple of blocks I made earlier. So you can just see when these all go together, how effective they are, and the fact that you can actually get so many different designs. I'm going to switch those over so I've got a dark one on that side. Because what you can see is you get a secondary design here, which I think can be very, very interesting, because you may choose to do these last ones in completely different fabrics. Whilst I was teaching this earlier in the year, my little samples I just put together, and this is just out of scraps. So there we go. That brings us to the end of the tutorial on the pineapple ruler. Thank you for joining us, and hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Bye bye for now.